Bench having a little fun. Autry goes to the reverse and missed it badly.
More than doubling her points per game from last season. I saw her in the gym every day.
Played hard there by Gabby Williams. Golden for a right side three. That's an air ball long. Offensive rebound foul. The putback bell.
And now for our feature presentation.
I hate you, hate you. I hate you, hate you. Fuck you, prize pig! I hate you, hate you. Fuck you, prize pig! I hate you, hate you. Fuck you, prize pig!
All right. What is up? Man, I can watch that over and over again. Awesome job, Underrated. I love that intro, man. What do you think, E?
Oh, I love it, man. I heard some of it, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is perfect." And we got the crisp cowboy at the end there. It's perfect.
It's awesome, man. And we're back, guys. WNBA is officially back. We got our first board up on both Prize Picks and Underdog. We already started going through the board, finding props, and seeing what we have. It's still limited right now, but we're gonna go with what we have and maybe do some predictions on the players that aren't currently on the board, and we'll also do our traditional game script and theory for each game. There's 4 games on Friday, and yeah, they start 2 at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then 1 at 8, and then 1 real late on the West Coast in LA at 11 p.m. Eastern. So full big slate for WNBA, 4 games on opening day. It should be really good. We don't have game lines yet, so we don't have point totals or spreads. Hopefully we'll get that sometime soon. We won't have it for the stream, but yeah, look out for those. How you feeling about the current board, E?
Feeling pretty good. We got our first bump. It was a pretty substantial one. You want to shot in the dark on which one that was? You're pretty high on it.
Which one?
Our rebound play.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. It says, I mean, I gotta fix the StreamYard. It's, I know last time we streamed, it had the screen black. I don't know if it's black right now. It's still saying like poor connection, but the internet's fine. So I hope it comes back. Because I have right now our spreadsheet up, so you guys can let me know if you can see it next to us.
Yeah, you're coming through good. I can see it. Everything's running well on YouTube right now. So unless there's anything that's you and I are not able to see, we should be good to go here.
Yeah, I see it on mine. So make sure they can see it. Let's see. Underrated said. Looks fine. Cool. Thanks, Underrated. All right, guys. What's up? Let's catch up with chat. Who's here? Jay Smooth. What up? Sean Drake. Kevin Sykes. Timeout Sports Podcast. What's going on? Jermaine. Familiar names here. I see. Love it. Love it. Draco. All right, guys. Yeah, let's dive right into it. Let's start with the first game. Well, one of the first games, because there's 2 starting at the same time. Let's start with the Connecticut Sun at Indiana Fever, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I think the lineup for Connecticut's pretty straightforward. It should be Heidemann, Hayes, Bonner, AT, and Brianna, and then Carrington, a key bench piece for them. So yeah, let's start with the away team, Connecticut. We got majority of their props, except we don't have any Heidemann props, which is kind of interesting. I guess they don't really know what to do with her as of yet, as of right now. Anything standing out to you for Connecticut here? I assume they're going to be heavy favorites against Indiana. But the one thing that we saw last year that helped Indiana somewhat was when they were at home. So that's the one silver lining here in this matchup. But I'm sure it's going to be close to a double-digit spread, like most Indiana games. Are you going to wait for first half props for Connecticut, or is there any full game standing out to you that you're willing to risk it for the biscuit and hope that it can stay close enough long enough?
Yeah, I think that we saw, with the overseas production for Alyssa Thomas here, and so far in the 2 preseason games, she had 5 assists in both of them. So I think that not only with the one, this is going to be a huge pace up for Connecticut here, the softer matchup as well. I think that, now we're going to have, this new look-ish kind of new take for Connecticut here. AT looks great, in great form right now. She's been working out. She looks fantastic. Brianna Jones, we're going to kind of see how, she was a force overseas, but I think that ball's a little bit different than what she's coming back to over here. So this might be potentially coming back down to earth for her. Big question mark there for me, but personally, I love Alyssa Thomas here. I think that 5.5 assists is way too low. And I'm going to be really looking out for free throw props for tomorrow as well. Indiana was, I believe, led the league in fouls per game last year, right?
They did. And a big part of that was Queen Egbo. Now you slide in the rookie Boston, who her main specialty is defense, but being a rookie and being a defensive specialist, I'm sure she's going to get some fouls called on her early in the season. So,
yeah, so we'll keep an eye out for that. I'm curious what all additional props they're going to give us tomorrow or later on tonight to look out for. But ATs, look pretty sharp here. So pre-flop, I feel pretty confident about that. And that kind of seems like a line that I don't know if they're going to move anything much yet right now. I think just that one play earlier, it was kind of an outlier, but everything on the board looks pretty accurate with what we are kind of predicting here.
I agree. I think, Tiffany Hayes is going to play a big role in this offense. But I think, in my opinion, with the potential blowout, she's pretty high at 16.5, and having, Bonner and Brianna eating up usage on offense. Kind of want to see how they mesh first all together before taking such a high line in a potential blowout spot here for Tiffany. But I think going forward, Tiffany in the right spot in a close competitive game, she's going to be one to target for her scoring for sure. Because that's what she's good for. She's a slasher, gets the basket, and she can hit outside shots as well. I think it's kind of weird. They also have a 3-point prop for her. I'm not really interested in that. I think it's 1.5. She can hit them, but like I said, her main game is the mid-range and getting to the basket and driving. So if you want a low line to sweat, I get it, but we don't have the props yet, but let's talk about one thing we always targeted with Indiana was points. What they have? Points in the paint in the first 6 minutes. Is that right? And they had points.
Oh yeah, dude, I totally forgot about that. It was the team field goal, 2 points made in the first 6 minutes, and then the threes. There is 2s, 3s, and we had free throws. I forgot about that. Ooh.
Yeah, well, Connecticut was always, at least last year, and it was a different squad, but they were always our target against soft matchups for the 2-point made in the first 6 minutes or first quarter. I think it was first 6 minutes, because they shot like minimal threes. I think even with this current lineup, Heidemann, she'll probably do her usual thing and take threes, but like I said, Hayes is going to drive. Bonner's a mid-range game. AT's going to work the inside, and obviously Brianna Jones. So I think even with Boston being a defensive prowess there, like I still think that you can consider that if it becomes available, because Connecticut, I think, continues to try to work it inside.
100%. That's their bread and butter, and they should be able to, I think, score pretty well at will here. You got a lot of just young blood here. Team that's really not gelled together, not played together long, and the Twin Towers have been playing literally for the last how many years together, and they just coming back from overseas together, fresh off of that. So feel pretty good about this team, at least in what they potentially can do. I feel a lot better about than what Indiana can do. We mentioned last time, looking at Indiana's preseason games, they had one game they put up it was like 56 points, and then the other game they put up almost 90. So 2 complete ends of the spectrum here that we could get.
Yep, I agree. And Draco asked Tiffany Hayes points. Yeah, I mentioned that. She is going to be probably the primary scorer here besides Brianna Jones, obviously. I just want to see how they mesh together first, and you just got to be concerned about the blowout, because 16.5 points, you're going to want a full game. But maybe Indiana fights back in the first game, gets hyped in front of the crowd for the opening day, and can keep it close long enough. So I think it's definitely worth the stab. Let's look out for first half points too, especially for players like Hayes and Brianna Jones. I think if we get those are also favorable against Indiana here. And speaking of Indiana, let's move on to them. Unless you have anything else for Connecticut.
No, this game I'll have the least amount of exposure to by far.
I agree. And okay, well, getting to that, let's get to Indiana. We got a bunch of young players, and then we have one vet, and Erica Wheeler. Connecticut, I mean, one thing they really thrived on last year was defense. I see the same here. I mean, Hayes is not a bad defender herself, probably even a step up from the young man Courtney Williams. And then Heidemann is, solid perimeter defender, and I'm sure she's only going to improve this year now. So, yeah, I think it's going to be tough sledding for a lot of these young Indiana players, especially in the front court. Yeah, and you had a rookie in Boston starting her first game ever in the league, and she, while she can put up buckets at times, I mean, a lot of times she can just focus on rebounding defense and not really score that much. So Brianna Jones is someone not to be afraid of, but with Alyssa Thomas roaming in the paint and playing like a rover or help defender, I'm probably going to stay away from anything scoring related in the front court for Indiana. And then the one thing I would consider would be Erica Wheeler, 8.5 points. I know in the past she's always been an under for us when she was on Atlanta, and we also always targeted her turnover prop. Let's look out for that. But I would love that against Connecticut. But 8.5 points. We saw her overseas really take control and score quite a bit and shoot more. Let's see if she does that on this team. If Kelsey Mitchell tends to draw the most defensive attention when teams play Indiana. So if that happens and Wheeler is making her 3-point shots and getting her drives, layups to the basket, 8.5 is a pretty low line. And especially if we get a first half prop for her, which I doubt since her line's already so low. And then I'm unsure if they're going to start Lexi or if they're going to actually go with Vivian's. I do not know, because Vivian's, I mean, that would just be a huge front court then. I don't know what to do. I know they're high on Lexi, and Lexi played a lot towards the end of the season last year. What is your thoughts on Indiana here?
Yeah, honestly, I think that they'll probably stick with Lexi here. Coach seemed to favor her quite a bit last year, and I think that they just don't have any consistent firepower or leadership coming off of the bench right now. And Victoria kind of fits that mold. You know, she can facilitate, she can shoot, does a little bit of everything here. I think the team has way too many bigs, so we need to. And this was something that definitely burned us a lot last year because we had a couple of games where it was, Egbo would come out, dominate a little bit in the first half, and then would have Nalissa Smith come out and play 35 minutes almost the entire game and, do everything in the second half. So there's a little bit of risk there. I definitely want to see what coach wants to do between Smith and Boston here. I think those are the two biggest things that we need to watch out for in the front court. And then as far as the wing players, I mean, we know that Mitchell is going to dominate usage here. I do like the Wheeler call here. I think that she is a great addition to give Kelsey the help on the perimeter that she actually needs. She looked really good overseas, as you mentioned, and she's conditioned right now. So if we get that same kind of hunger coming back here, for me, I want to see her drive into the lane and continuing that mid-range action. That's where, very Courtney Williams-esque style, but that's where she's really excelled at lately. So if I'm seeing that, that's going to give me some great confidence moving forward. But we are talking some serious blowout risk here, and we got one really good team versus one really bad team.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think Wheeler, she's going to dominate ball handling here. And Mitchell's going to be the traditional 2-guard. But yeah, it just depends on how Connecticut handle it. If they don't trap Mitchell, like I think the 4 assists is a little high in my opinion, and especially Connecticut playing such a slow pace and defensive game. 4 assists for a 2-guard is pretty high, but if they trap her and she has to dish it out, she could, maybe push at the minimum there. So we've seen that in the past. It just depends on how teams treat her. but I think Wheeler will be the primary ball handler, and then Mitchell, do her thing scoring off the ball. And then Nalissa, yeah, we've talked about her minutes. Sometimes doesn't even play in the fourth, like you were saying with the coach. Maybe now this is her second year, a little more season. She gets a more established rotation and run here. But she's got a crowded front court, like we talked about, especially if Vivian's is in there, and then with Boston and Egbo. So that probably is going to limit her rebounding potential. Although she's a great rebounder, but this is not a good rebounding spot for with AT and Brianna down there. So I'm probably going to stay away from her. Do you have any leans on her, or are you fading as well?
Yeah, I'll probably fade a large majority of Indiana tomorrow, to be honest. I think there'll be a team that I want to look out for turnover props if we get them, and then any kind of, I think first half maybe consideration for Indiana, but other than that, for me, it's just gonna be a large stay away.
Yeah. Unless it's announced that Victoria's starting and then we get props for her, I will definitely consider her unders. We rode that in Euro all last like 2 months, and yeah, she just does not look good. And I don't imagine her doing anything against this Connecticut team. So I would definitely consider that if we get her unders. Look out for that, her PRA, or if her rebounds too juiced or anything like that. All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Let's travel to good old Washington. We got starting at the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. The highly anticipated one of the Monstar teams, New York Liberty, traveling to Washington, playing at the Mystics. I imagine this spread's going to be pretty close. I would say, within 5 points or less. This should be, really competitive playoff-like game here, I imagine. So let's start with the visiting team in Liberty. I think Vandersloot cleared her concussion protocol, and it sounds like she's good to go. So she'll run point. And then the only remaining piece of news that we don't have is Jonquel with that foot injury she's been dealing with. So she is questionable. That's going to be huge news to watch out for. If she's out, then Stephanie Dolson will slide right back into her normal starting role at the 5. And that will change a lot of things, because we know the type of player Dolson is that likes to play in the perimeter, set the high pick and roll, and shoot threes. So, yeah, it will definitely change the offensive and defensive landscape of New York. So that's really big news to watch out for. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this team looks like. I think it's almost like a wait and see approach with them, because we have no idea how they're going to mesh together, and it's going to take time for them to gel, since they really haven't played with each other at all and with this current unit. I will say that Lainey read reports and looked at preseason. She's playing really well, and her training camp says she looks like her old normal all-star self and is returning to form. So her points is pretty low at 12.5. However, we know Washington is a top 3 defense. So I'll probably stay away, and also just not knowing how this offense is gonna work together. So I think going forward, though, let's watch out for Lainey props if they continue to stay low, depending on who they play the next 2 games after this one. And then Sabrina, always there live for her scoring, obviously, but again, a tough matchup. Especially I think Sykes will probably be on her, and Sykes is very pesky defender. And then Vandersloot, I think her coming off a concussion protocol, and in her role in this offense, I just envision her being a playmaker, floor general, looking to set up others here, like Sabrina, Lainey, and Stewart. So you could consider 100 points, but if she hits a couple threes, that will definitely hurt. But she's not a good 3-point shooter. She gets most of her points driving to the basket. And then her assist, it's always live, always with Sloot, but It's the pace down against Washington, and then the defense, and not knowing how the defense or this team is going to mesh together. Probably going to stay away. So I'll probably just consider her under points. But yeah, I always like Vandersloot's assists here. What's your thoughts? Do you have any interest in any of these players, especially Stewie?
Yeah, I think we kind of almost have to have some interest in Stewart here, but I do agree with the Vandersloot call. There's a couple question marks, around her, or around her, physically, and then how does she kind of fit into this team here? But I do like the under points call. I mean, looking at this team in the pecking order, she's pretty close to almost four. I would say her and Laney are probably neck and neck for number 4 and 5 in the pecking order here. And so just to kind of back up real fast, I know there's a lot of preseason hype for Laney and, everything that's going on, but a lot of stuff to consider too. We had a lot of these other players like Stewart and John Quell, they were overseas and fulfilling commitments and stuff there too. And now that they're back, is that the same kind of like, does she look good in general, or does she look good because like you're going through practice and your stars aren't there? What kind of reports are we actually getting here? Because we were very high on her going into the postseason for last year, and she was a great disappointment. Like, I'm sorry to say it, she had one good game and then was not a clutch player for them whatsoever. So now we're adding more ball dominant players to this team. Honestly, I think that she probably is going to be a flash in the pan for some games, but man, I'm finding it hard to see her having the ball in her hands more than just, Sabrina here. She's was pretty ball dominant this last year, and now, I think Stewart is probably going to be the centerfold of the team by and large. Triple J is probably going to be something that they're going to be figuring out and trying to work into either some kind of help style for Stewart down low, or she honestly could just be kind of playing 25 to 28 minutes a night, rocking a Q tag all season again, and we get what we get from game to game. So some of that's a little hard to read into right now, but I definitely want to pay attention to this first game. I love the underpoint call for Vandersloot, and I think for Stewart, I don't want to plant my flag on any one prop yet, but a shot in the dark on her 3-point prop is kind of interesting. She had 6 3-point attempts in the preseason game that she did play. And if they're playing her more as, I think, just a bigger guard in this particular style of offense, she's probably going to take a lot of threes this season. I think more than she has in a lot of her seasons past.
Yeah. I could definitely see that, especially since if they have JJ down low. How about if we get our stock prop? We always consider that, and then especially with the team like Washington that really likes to drive it in the paint and get it done inside with Shakira, and even Sykes loves to drive to the basket. If we get that at 2.5, would you be interested in that, or just maybe her fantasy straight up?
I think that the stock one would be pretty interesting here, just because there is going to be a bit of a pace down and a tougher defense here to go up against. I don't want to hope for a ceiling performance here because she is a little juiced. 39.5. That is close to some of what her postseason numbers looked like last season, and now we're adding a couple more players on that. It's a little bit more risk for me than I want for game one, but I think the stock prop could definitely be sharp. And yeah, I think the stock is pretty live here because we're probably expecting EDD to be a little bit more spry and active for this game. So she's going to see a little bit more of her here.
Yeah. And then how about a rebound prop if John Cole's out and we have Dolson starting? Because Dolson, we know, can't rely on her for rebounding. She can barely move at times. So I think that would be a boost to Stewie's rebounding. Although Sabrina is a glass hog at times, so they could definitely eat into each other. But Stewie she can definitely have ceiling rebound games. And like I said, with Washington, I imagine a lot of their shots are going to come from the mid range, 15-foot range. So a lot of short rebounds. And I imagine Stewie's going to be around that mid range paint area roaming.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think honestly, the rebounds, or if you think that Triple J's shot volume, if you think that Triple J is going to have a reasonable amount of shot volume this season, then there's going to be that gap to fill as well. So you could probably even consider her PR since it's the straight edition right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think it all depends on Jonquil news, so let's look out for that. Okay. And then if we get Dolson props, I'll consider unders in honor of our longtime member J Dreams. Okay, if we got nothing else, let's move to Washington, the home team. We got Cloud, opened at 7 assists, decent value for her. She's normally around 7.5 or 8 on a good day. And then we also got their final confirmation on their starting lineup. I think they were the first team to announce their official starting lineup already. And this is what it's going to be. So we're going to have Cloud, Sykes, Atkins, EDD, and Shakira. Washington recently signed Emily Engsler, and then they cut her soon after. I think she's dealing with some injury that she just can't get over. So their front court's really thin. It was also announced that Maisha Hines-Allen, one of their key bench players, especially in the front court, is also out. So right now they just have 2 centers, active centers, in Shakira and Zalbi. So yeah, it's I think it's the Shakira show here in the front court. Just coming off a spectacular rookie season, going to be more season here, and absolutely dominated in Euro Cup. Averaged about 20 points, 10 to 12 rebounds, a ton of stocks. It is Euro Cup. I know that league is is not much competition, but she really, I think, gained a lot of confidence from playing in that league. So I think she's going to be a key piece this year, and especially with not much behind her on the bench. I think she's going to play all the minutes she can handle, and 22.5 fantasy points for someone who has that's much of a stock upside, rebound upside, and then she can't have scoring upside as well. So I really like the 22.5 fantasy, and especially for a center who's going to play potentially 30 plus minutes in a competitive game. And if Dolson's starting, that's even better.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I mean, we know that Shakira is a stock machine, and now we have this New York big front court. It's gonna be a lot of action there.
A lot of action. And even if Jonquil plays, I like the stock potential because Jonquil, while Jonquil does like to shoot threes at times, I mean she's gonna still bang around side, and that just increases the stock upside for Shakira. And then if you want to hedge, I think it'd be smart to take Shakira's rebounds at 6.5. Because with not much like I said behind her on the bench and her dominating the front court, and EDD is gonna probably focus more on scoring a lot of games like we've seen in the past, and sometimes she'll have spike rebound games, but majority of the time she's focused on scoring. I don't mind the 6.5 rebounds as like an alternate play, increase your odds in case she just doesn't really get it done scoring, and to get her over that fantasy. Anything you want to do with Cloud or EDD? I know we talked about on our last stream that with her, you want to target her early in the season while she's still fresh, but she's juiced at 19.5 points.
Yeah, probably her 3-point prop, honestly, at home. I know the volume. I feel like the volume ended up kind of tapering off a little bit last year, and a large part probably just due to the back issues. But her at home, I mean, she's just been money for 2 threes, it seems like, every early portion of the season here. I don't know if I want to target some of, like that 19.5 points, or even her fantasy line is a little high because she doesn't really get too many stocks. But they were hyping her up for the preseason and her being that, the sharpshooter. And I think they would prefer to have her a little bit more closer to the perimeter just to take those shots and fall back on defense, and then leave Atkins and Austin to just roam in the paint and roam on the perimeter there. Um, just a little bit quicker speed, save her some of that back stress. But I like it at home. I mean, I feel like 1.5 is just really, really low for this kind of matchup.
I feel it. Being the home team, yeah, makes sense. And then, do you want anything to do with Atkins, or Sykes once we get Sykes props, or even Cloud? Me personally, I'm going to stay away from the backcourt.
Yeah, honestly, I probably won't have too much exposure to the backcourt here, because we did this a lot last year too, where we felt pretty good about Washington, and then they pulled a Houdini on us and flipped the game strip completely in the second half. One thing that they did have, I do remember last year, they would continuously leave Shakira Austin's free throws very, very low. It was like 1.5 every game. So if we get that again and Triple J plays, I would have interest in that.
I like that. I think she improved her free throw shooting in Euro Cup too. So because she got fouled a ton, a lot of her points came from the charity strike. So I like that call. Definitely need to remind ourselves, look out for those free throw props. Sykes, I think the one thing, once we get her props, I think the one thing I always target with her, she's such a try-hard, aggressive player. And Cloud not really being a good rebounder, and Atkins not so much. I think in the backcourt, she could really rack up some rebounds. So depending on what the line is, if it's 3.5, I would definitely be interested, but I imagine it might be 4 flat. But she definitely has rebound upside as a rebounding guard in the backcourt. And we know that Sabrina is going to chuck a lot of threes. And then the other bench pieces that come in for the Liberty. Liberty lived and died by the 3-ball last year. So, yeah, I would be interested in that, depending on what the line is. And then Sykes, you can always go with their fantasy too, because she's a stock monster. She racks up the stocks, and Sabrina and Slate are not immune to turning it over. So I would maybe consider that if it's a low line, like a low 20s range. But again, we need to see how she meshes with Cloud going forward, and especially Atkins here.
Sure.
Tiana Hawkins. Let's see. I don't know if we're gonna get bench pieces, because again, this board is limited, and they're gonna be dropping props all the way until probably lock tomorrow. But if we get bench pieces, I think Hawkins could be in consideration with how thin right now Washington is in the front court. I think she's going to have to play a big role with Hines Allen out. So if we get low lines for her, we know Hawkins real well from WNBL, the Australian League. Massive scoring upside. So if it's a low line, I would definitely take that into consideration, especially if she's coming off the bench going against defenders like Shaq Zoo.
Or Dolson.
Or Dolson. So let's look out for that. Anything else from this game? It's gonna be a good game. But Washington is not a team to pick on usually.
Yeah, if this was honestly any other team but Washington right now, I would have a lot more interest in. But I think this is a game that has a lot more study-wise importance moving forward, because these are going to be teams, New York especially, we're going to be targeting this team a bunch and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along. This game should be interesting. This is I call this the last 2 games the wild card games, because it's like we really don't know. We got completely like revamped units here. And they should be competitive games because they're like mediocre to below average teams. The first one of those 2 is at 8 p.m. Eastern, Chicago Sky without Candace Parker, traveling to Minnesota without Sylvia Fowles. And yeah, it's I imagine somewhat a decent spread here. Probably Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine what the point total is going to be, but it could be pretty high because the defenses are not that great here. But yeah, I'll start with Chicago, visiting team. We got the young man Courtney Williams and Copper, Mabry, and then I assume Gardner's going to start here. And then we got confirmation that Elizabeth Williams is full, good to go, no minute restriction, and is going to play all the minutes she can handle. Now, Big Liz, if you don't know her, she is Mark Williams' sister. Mark Williams for Charlotte Hornets, the rookie from Duke. She also played at Duke. She looked really good in EuroLeague, averaging almost 10 rebounds and scoring too, getting it done. So they're very, very thin in the front court. They really are gonna lean on her, I feel like, and they have her at 6 rebounds, which is kind of crazy because if you think about it, they have Courtney Williams at 5. Copper, I get at 5 because Copper, is a small forward, and she has rebound upside. But having Courtney Williams almost the same rebound line as Big Liz is kind of mind-boggling. I don't get it. I think 5 is way too high for Courtney because she has to deal with Mabry and Copper and that mid-range backcourt rebounding, and those two definitely soak up rebounds. And then Gardner's not a slouch either if she starts. I think that's way too high for Courtney. So I would even consider the under on that. I think it should be 4.5, my opinion. I mean, at some points in last season, I know she's on a different team. Her rebound probably would even get down to 3.5. A lot of games she would just hover around 3 rebounds. I think a solid correlation is going under Courtney's rebound over on Elizabeth Williams. But yeah, I think Elizabeth Williams rebounding potential here, and even her PR is something to target here because she has really improved her offensive game, and like I said, I think she's going to be a really key piece of this offense in the front court. And another thing I wanted to point out, let's see what you think. They have Courtney Williams fantasy higher than KFC Copper. Does that make sense to you?
No, not really. I mean, they're definitely making you. I don't know why they're making us choose between the two right now. I mean,
The 3 they're like, okay, we're just gonna set them all on the same line.
well, yeah.
Mabry, KFC, and Courtney. So
Yeah, I mean, some of it is definitely a bit of a spectator figure out spot, but I mean, Courtney, one, she's so small. She's by far the smallest player on the team now. I mean, even with all these players gone. And then just being surrounded by so many different tryhards, like I just can't imagine, like, how are you, unless we're just getting Brick City here from both sides, like, how are you getting that many rebounds? How is that? How are the starting 5 getting this many rebounds in prop?
right? Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, something to consider. I could even see it moving down to 4.5 by tomorrow, but we'll see. Copper, I definitely get it at 5. But speaking of Copper, I mean, she's gonna be the primary go-to here, and we know she can get it done. But there's gonna be nights when Mabry goes full black hole, try hard, and takes all the shots, which we've seen her do, both in WNBA, Euro, wherever she's playing. So one thing to take in consideration. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it's with Courtney Williams taking some of her mid-range shots. It's going to be all KFC here. Do you have any interest in her? Do you want to see how she looks with the team, or are you just going to take a stab at her game 1 and go with her PR, or which we tended to go with, or her shit up points?
Yeah, I'll probably roll the dice on the PR just for them not having the bodies to have, an active center, any kind of backups really to fill in for that. She's probably going to be out there for a ton of minutes here. It is, let's see, is it a home? It's a away game for them, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that Copper just has the experience here. We saw her really turn it up in the postseason last year. Playoff Copper is something else as well. But she's just got a really high ceiling. I think that some of these lines, looking back at last year, is kind of strange to see. She was 29-30 fantasy, so we're getting a bit of a discount here for them also not really knowing what's going to happen. But this is going to be basically two teams with no defense, a lot of bricks possibly going up, and decent pace. I'm kind of curious to see if now with Chicago losing those different players, are they going to get a pace up, or is it still just going to be a neutral pace for them?
I think I could see it being paced up. Rebecca Garner likes to play really fast if she's in the main starting piece for them, or if they want to use her as a spark plug off the bench. Copper loves to push the pace and drive downhill. Yeah, I could see him pushing the pace this season. Just depends on what main unit they go with. I mean, speaking of Garner, if she is starting and we get props for her, I always interested in fantasy should be low in the low way. So she's looked really good in EuroLeague as well, and obviously towards the end of the season and playoffs, when she was one of their main defenders in spark plugs coming off the bench. So now she gets even more of a usage bump with Candace gone, obviously. So
Yeah, totally agree.
okay, well now this is the tricky team in my opinion. This is and I imagine that's why they're holding out on their props the most, because we have two players. Well, one, we don't even know what the actual starting unit's going to be. They haven't decided yet. I read reports. Powers, we haven't even seen the preseason, but obviously, she was the main starter for them, but I don't know what's going on with her. And then, yeah, do they run Powers and Collier together and just have Shep at the 5 by herself, or do they run Shep at the 4 and slide in someone like Dantas at the 5, or even Milik? I didn't understand, like, the coach, like, she showed upside and would do really well coming off the bench, but then the coach would still just hold back on her minutes and not give her any opportunity. So it seems like it's not that high on her. Maybe it's changed now in the offseason, but I think Milik will just continue to be a bench piece. So I imagine they just run Shep at the 5, right? With Sylvia gone.
Yeah, I think so, honestly. It makes more sense if they do start Powers and Collier together, but kind of curious to see how they're going to swing this, and then having Diamond coming off the bench here is going to be. I think this team is going to be very fun to watch, and
Sure.
even though there's, I don't think a high ceiling for skill level outside of, like, let's say Tiffany Mitchell or Powers. I think those two are far and away the best two players on the team, no question. Shepherd, I think if she's not in the doghouse, she's had the lowest props to highest ceiling. But she's also been a player who has pulled the covers over our eyes and really gotten us in the second half. So that is
Yeah.
something to keep an eye out for. But I think this team, we need starting lineup, like, first and foremost for planting our flag anywhere.
I totally agree. If this is indeed the starting lineup and Shep's running the 5, I always and I will continue to do it, run her under points. And having Elizabeth Williams, who's a solid defender, I wouldn't mind doing it if, depending on what the line is, what they drop her at for this game 1. But then as an alternate play, as a backup, I wouldn't mind her RA, depending on what it is, because we know that's about all she's good for, is rebounding and setting the pick and roll, coming off as a roller, and then setting up others. So she can definitely get that done. If it's 11 and a half, maybe take a stab at it if she's starting. I think that's probably what it would be at. 10 and a half would be most ideal, but we shall see. And then Tiffany Mitchell, I definitely want her free throw props. That from watching her last year in the league and then in Australian league, like, she is a true downhill, get to the basket, draw the foul kind of player, and Rebecca Gardner and Elizabeth Williams and others are aggressive defenders, and they will probably foul her. So let's see if we get a free throw prop. We might not, just because they don't know what to do with her since new addition and new starting role. I imagine they're probably in the first week and first slate. They're going to be probably pretty stingent on free throw props because those are most volatile. There's no lines out there for them and don't know how to set them. So we'll see, though. Keep an eye out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then wait and see on other players like Powers and Collier. I mean, they have her so juiced at 34.5 fantasy. I mean, I get it because she's like a do-it-all player, but with this new unit and her kind of coming back into her starting role again, I'm not willing to risk that. What do you think?
No, this team's got I think a lot of sleeper good bigs on this team. Like there's a lot of potential. I mean, they drafted the rookies, and between I think Collier coming back and Shepard was kind of a mainstay in the unit even with or without fouls. So coach has got to be crazy not to be playing her this year. And for us now, we finally have our RA prop, and that was the only prop that we ever wanted to play for her because tying in the points to everything else was just like usually an underplay.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And now we finally got RA. You talked about that before the season started. You're like, I hope we get RA, and because we didn't have it last year. Now we have it. So, and she's like a Draymond of the WNBA, where you want RA, right? So I'm with you on that. Let's see what it opens out. I'm certain we're gonna get it. I mean, she's a key starting piece for them. So
and one last little thing, I think that both of these teams are going to be top 5 in fouls per game as well.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Jericho said, "I don't know why they don't have Powers on the board." Yeah, I mean they don't have anyone, right? They just have McBride and Collier, so they might be just waiting on what the unit's going to be too, the starting unit.
Yeah. Well, we were having, Powers shift in and out of the starting lineup last year. So they're probably looking at that data too and trying to figure it out.
Yep. All right. Let's go to the late night hammer, the Island game, 11 p.m. Eastern, late game for those on the East Coast. Phoenix Mercury at LA Sparks. Completely new look here for Phoenix. Well, new look, but also old look, right? Because they got the return of Griner.
Yep.
And then, but no Skylar. Potentially no Sophie. Last report I read, she's day to day. So she's a true questionable. But then they added Mariah Jefferson, and then you have old reliable under Brianna Turner, who I like even more for unders now because with Griner back in the mix in the front court. So I don't care what it is. It could be 3.5. It could be 3. I'm taking the under points, and especially going against the NECA and Shanae in the front court. I will not even hesitate. She 8 times out of 10, or even say 9 times out of 10, she stayed under her points for us. And people, I remember last year in the community, we were scared, like, man, her point prop's like 3.5, 4. Yep, finished with 0-2. So took like 2 shots a game. Yeah, I think her potential goes even down more so with Griner in the mix. What is your feeling on Phoenix here? We know how Taurasi is on the road. And now with a new look team and having Griner back, what do you want to do with Taurasi? Do you have any interest with her assist prop if and when we get it?
Honestly, I don't think that they are going to give it to us this first game.
Really?
Yeah, I think they hold back on it. I'll be surprised if we get it, just because we have so many props for her already.
Wow. I mean, they got to give us some. I mean, we don't have a single assist prop for them, unless they give us like some random one like Mariah's or something.
I mean, they're implying that somebody could get an assist prop here. I mean, they gave us RA for a couple of them. Like I think Griner and Tarasi have an RA prop right now. They could really sandbag this and really just hold out on a lot of props here.
Just give us her RA and that's it.
Yeah, honestly. Because I mean, they gave us her threes, they gave us her fantasy, and then they held out on the standalone for the rebound and the assist, but gave us the RA. So that tells me, or gives me at least the inkling that they're not going to give us the assist prop at all. I mean, if they did, what do you think it's going to be? 6, 5.5?
I think 6 is reasonable. I mean, with Skylar not there, she's going to have to do all the playmaking with the starting unit because Skylar would eat into her assist potential. I don't really see Mariah eating into that, right? I mean, Mariah is just going to play more of an off-ball spot shooter.
More than likely, yeah. Now with Sophie being a Q tag, you know, I'm kind of curious if she's out, who are they going to start? Like, is Meg?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Or I was just going to ask, do you think does Meg start over Sophie if she's out?
That'd be way too big.
Yeah.
That'd be way too big. I'm not sure. I have to look at the current bench situation. Just looking at her props. So they have her at 16.5 points, and then they have her PR at 19.5, right? So they're implying 2.5 to 3 rebounds, but then they have her RA at 7.5. So let's say like they're implying her for 2.5 rebounds, and they're juicing by 0.5 for the PR. So they're saying, yeah. So the assist prop would probably be 5.5.
Okay. Yeah. If we got a straight assist prop, I think under 6, I would definitely have interest in it. At anything over that, I don't know. That's kind of a coin flip.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the total's got to be high in this game, right?
Has to be.
Yeah. I mean, and the pace is going to be really solid. I mean, if we got it at 5 flat, I would definitely consider it, especially with no Skylar. And you know, Reiner back in the mix, and if she's playing anywhat like her old self, better option than she's passing to than Tina Charles and others that Tarasi used to have around her. Do you want to take a stab at her under 3s on the road? That used to be one of our mainstays, but
Game 1, I don't know. Game 1's a little tricky. I like her when she's a little bit more, when there's more wear and tear, and you can clearly see they saved them for the home games.
Yeah. Okay. And anything else? Do you want to anything for Mariah or Griner? Griner, I mean, she could come out really rusty, right? 19.5 points against Shanae and NECA. What do you think here?
Oh, her lines are juiced out of her mind, like right now. Like I'm not even gonna beat around the bush about that. She is juiced to the max. They are not playing around with her. But ceiling wise, I think that her lines are accurate. Rust wise, I truly do not know, because we don't know. Was she chilling over there? Was she playing some rec basketball? Coming back over here
in prison?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, she was doing nothing but sitting there. I mean, prior to going to the Russian, whatever prison unit they call it, but she was playing in the Russian league. But then she was out of basketball for months. Yeah. I think what about like let's see how she starts the game, and then if she does look rusty and not conditioned and just not fully tuned, like what about just taking her second half unders?
Yeah, I'll probably have a little bit more consideration in that game plan. Just try to, assuming they don't juice her first half lines too much, I would take a stab at the first half overs and then try and run it back with the second half under. Or hedge your bets with a juiced full game over prop and then second half under.
Okay. Her free throw prop could be interesting here too, because we know Shanae is a foul machine,
Yeah.
one of the highest. So, I'll just put that. Look out for. If I put a little asterisk here, it means look out for it. Okay. Let's go to the Sparks. All we have is NECA and Shanae props. But we can still talk about the other players. With Sykes gone, we already saw when Canada was playing alongside Sykes towards the end of the season. Sparks, Canada was doing it all still, right? I mean, she was playmaking, rebounding, even scoring at times, but her playmaking was always there. Would you be interested in her assist prop, depending on what it opened? What line, I guess, would we want? 6 or less?
Yeah, preferably if we could get it at 6 or less. I know towards the end of the season, she was getting real close to the steady, being 5.5 to 6 pretty much every game. I think we started taking her PA a little bit more towards the end of the season because we were getting it at a discount. But I mean, we've seen kind of two different ends of Canada here, where the first half of the season she was just a ghost on the team and completely non-factor, and then second half of the season when the lineup and all the players left and all that stuff happened, she was a huge piece of the offense. So I'm hoping that continues because I feel like was a great part of the team embracing that, her being the guard for the team, and she fits the mold. She's scrappy, she's a great defender, and now if they can just kind of figure out their front court, hopefully their back court should be pretty set now.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, and then any interest in NECA or Shanae? I'm probably gonna fade both. But if you got something.
So I'm really on one of those two are not clearing their rebounds.
For sure.
And I'm thinking NECA, and I know she was one that we were targeting a little bit more towards her rebound unders, because we got burned for the rebound overs because she was doing the rebounding and then she stopped doing that altogether and all she was doing was scoring. So I'm anticipating that is going to continue, and we see Zia step into that role a little bit more to help down low with Shanae, but we're not 100% sure here. We are still kind of guessing, and with them also having a new coach, if I'm not mistaken, this is a bit up in the air.
I agree. But yeah, she would definitely ghost on the glass a lot. And then every once in a while have those spike games, and then Shanae, when she can stay out of foul trouble, she can rack up fantasy, but foul trouble is always a concern with her, and just getting full run because of it. And now you got Griner, who can draw a lot of fouls. So I'm probably gonna fade her for that reason. And then I will look out. Let's look out and see what they do if they start Azra or the rookie Cook. If they start Azra and we get props for her, I'm smashing the under. I don't care what the point line is. She looked absolutely awful in Euro Cup, and I imagine that continues. It started in the playoffs last year, and it trickled over to Euro Cup, one of the worst leagues. And I don't see anything changing here, and probably pick up right where she left off start the season. Rusty and shooting really bad from the field. She was shooting less than 30% in Euro Cup. It was like a 3 or 4 game span. but we might not get props for her, especially if she's coming off the bench. But we'll just have to see. I imagine they're going to drop these 2 late games, those props either tonight or tomorrow morning, as they wait for more roster news and everything like that. And since they start later in the day, especially this late game being how late is it, 11 p.m.
Yeah.
But we can jump on. I think they're probably going to add a lot of props right before lock, so definitely look out. I know people are going to build cards way in advance to beat the bumps, but there's going to be a lot of late ads, and hopefully it's bench players to not only different props for certain players. So definitely keep an eye out for those players like Azura and others that we want to target unders on. Anything else for this game?
One other one that just kind of been popped up, another play that I remember us targeting a little bit last year, but NECA, her 1.5 blocks plus steals, that was something that they continuously kept giving us. And I think in this particular matchup with hopefully Sophie being out, I think that's going to boost all that inside production that Phoenix is probably going to end up doing.
So that's a great point. Yep. And Trusty is a turnover machine.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I'm with that. I wonder if we get it. Yeah. Should we do team card as tradition? Our first one of the season for the people.
What's the confidence level? I guess what's the confidence level now after the rebound bump for your number 1 play?
It happened already.
Yeah, she got bumped to 7. Yeah, they overcorrected for that one. I think her fantasy went up a little bit. It's at 24.5 now. Yeah, that rebound got a fat bump.
I blame probably someone in our community who probably nuked it.
Yeah, I got it on 1 card and I tabbed back over it. It was like projections have changed.
Wow.
Up to you if you want to do a team card today. If not, once we get more or the rest of the board, we'll have more options.
For the people, let's give it what we have for now.
All right.
Wait, it could be like a. Let's do a pick. Let's get 2.
All right. Well, let's go with our mutual first play. I think was Shakira Austin's fantasy. Felt pretty good about that.
Yep. They need to update our picture.
Yeah, I don't know why she doesn't have one at all. And Alyssa Smith as well. That's funny. Let's see. And I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag on AT's 5.5 assists. I feel pretty good about that.
Okay. And remember, for those watching now, and if you're watching this later, these aren't like absolute favorite. We're just picking like what we currently think is the best value on the board. Obviously, there's going to be new props dropping, new players, so things are going to change. But trying to find what's currently available before bumps. As we've seen, there's already bumps happening. So, going under on that young man. Okay. And then what other one do we want? It's currently available.
I don't know if we actually talked about this. What do you think about Jonquel at 9 rebounds? Is she getting 10 rebounds on game 1 of the season?
With the injured foot? I mean, she might not even play, right?
Yeah, I mean, he could DMP, but I just saw that and I was like, man, her line is really more
Yeah.
than Stewart.
Yeah. I'm with that. That's definitely an option. Or we could go with your EDD threes, which could be a little bit more volatile, but low sweat there. Or we just keep it as a 3 pick for now. I mean, we could throw JJ in there. Again, there's question marks because we don't even know if she's playing. But yeah, it would just DMP and turn into a 3 pick.
Let's go with a 3 pick for now. Just so one with what we got, and we don't move any lines in case something opens up tomorrow that we do like and want to pair up with it.
That was devastating, man, seeing that.
I know. It happened right as we were going live, and I was like, no.
Did Underdog bump it as well?
That's a good question.
Yeah, they did.
I'll say I still don't mind her fantasy at 24.5, but it's a little blowout risk there.
What was it at? Her fantasy, it got bumped as well?
I believe so. I think she opened at 22 or 23. I think it was 23. Let me double check.
We should have it here in the notes. $21.5. What is she now?
24.5. Never mind.
I told you when I saw her lines, that was the first thing that stood out to me. I was like, this is just way too low for a main center playing 30 plus minutes. Oh well. Okay. Yeah, stick with these 3 for now. See what comes out, but you can always go with we can always rock with Copper's PR too. Good correlation with Courtney under rebound.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. First stream card. It's good to be back, man. It's good to be back. Some best memories last summer doing WNBA, doing the streams and content, breaking it down. So I'm looking forward to the season. I'm glad we're getting more props, types of props like the RA, and I'm really excited to see what else they give us because this is obviously not the full board. So look out for those props we talked about. We'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll still do content every day through the weekend too. We got 2 games on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. All those games are really early in the day.
3 on Sunday.
3 on Sunday, okay, and they're all early.
Yeah.
And then and then I believe there's no game on Monday, no games on Monday, and then we have 2 games on Tuesday. So we'll be back for stream for Tuesday for the 2-gamer. And yeah, we should by then have a full board because we'll be on the same day and we'll be ready to go. Can't stream tomorrow, so glad we got these props in time though for the stream. All right, Eric, that was fun as always, man. What do we got? Chat, a lot of suspension due to overseas commitments. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this first week is going to be very volatile and a lot of like moving pieces. So I think unless we find some strictly gold mine nukes that we're like thinking this is an outlier must have, tread a little light this first week. And then once we get the process rolling, then it's just going to be take off from there.
No doubt. Hey, quick thing. If you want to jump on it, if you've already played Shakira's fantasy on Prize Picks, her rebound I still think we already talked about it, is decent value at 6.5. It's 7.5 on Underdog, which I think more per line. I think 7 flat, probably somewhere in between. I would definitely not limit yourself to just her fantasy, and while you can get exposure to her 6.5 before it bumps, because wherever they're drawing these lines from, yeah, it probably will bump because, yeah, like I said, 7.5 as you see right now on Underdog. Okay, you got anything else, E?
No, not for today. I know, so with the schedule kind of kicking off from Friday going into the weekend, I know typically you're pretty tied up for the weekends. I
I'll be
will
around
have
for the night sessions though. I can break it down with you guys at night and provide stuff because the games are really early this weekend. So I'll be around in the evening, nighttime. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. And I'll also be putting out videos for the games as well on my channel on YouTube, Eric's Prop Stop.
Yes.
And then make sure you guys check out our Discord. We're hitting all kinds of sports right now. I mean, we have, anywhere from AFL, we got cricket, we got WNBA, NBA, everything. So nice little one-stop shop there. I believe all the links are down below. And looking forward to tomorrow, man. I'm so excited.
Me too, man. We made it. We survived. We were playing all these different sports. We weathered the storm, and we're back with our bread and butter WNBA. So no more playing Australian women's basketball or Euro Cup or Euro League. We got the real thing now. So glad everyone's back for it. And let's have a good season, man. Let's do it right. All right, guys.
Let's fucking go. We about to go big. Kill him with the prize pig. Let's fucking go. We going out blazing. Let's get honey. This is Propulation. About to go big. Kill him with the prize pig. About to go big. Kill him with the prize pig. 24/7 researching, it's all a fantasy. But if it makes the right plays, it pays automatically. Bankroll showing that I know it dope strategy. On a winning streak, I'm stacking a dose of the bookies, all get mad at me. Confident with power plays, not clicking on a flex today. 10 times the money, and we all about to get paid. Eric and Josh on the stream, they be killing it. Never gonna stop it, they like if you feeling it. Digging the players, they all never time. You can't make up your mind, then just go with your gut. Fantasizing Tasha Cloud, Gabby Williams said watch your mouth. They won and they two, I played the over, they come through. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum, pick them both, we stacking them. Going big to the maximum, just push them and we cashing them. Let's